welcome to a very special bonus episode of M&G Agency Life. I'm Pete.
And I'm Aimee, and this isn't our usual episode.
No, it's not. This year, Mearns Gill celebrates an incredible milestone, 90 years in business. Since opening its doors back in 1936, the agency has seen the world of marketing transform beyond recognition. From newspaper adverts and radio campaigns to social media, podcasts and more, it's certainly been quite a journey.
So we thought we'd do something a little different. Over the next 40 minutes or so, we'll be looking back at the people, the memories and the moments that have shaped Mearns Gill over the last 9 decades.
Yeah, we've been catching up with some familiar faces from the agency's past and present, hearing from long-standing clients who've been part of the journey, and we've even dusted off a few vintage adverts from the archives.
Some of which definitely sound like they're from another era.
They certainly do. So, whether you've worked with M&G, been part of the team, or you're simply curious about the story behind Scotland's longest established creative agency, thank you for joining us.
Let's start at the very beginning.
When you think about M&G, there's one surname that immediately comes to mind.
Earlier, we caught up with Alan Mearns. He started by telling us a little more about his connection to Mearns Gill.
Sure, well, I'm very happy to do that. It's funny today because we'd put this date in the diary. Today, actually, it coincides with this would have been my mother's 90th birthday.
Wow!
So that's a rather strange
timing.
Strange timing, isn't it?
At time of recording, our 90th anniversary podcast is that's brilliant.
My mother wasn't involved in the business at all, but she was a great support to my father.
Yeah.
But back to your original question,
sure.
Talking about my recollections. It was my grandparents that started the business in 1936. Both grandmother and grandfather. Grandmother really was the driving force before ladies in business were a thing. So she was certainly the instigator, but obviously heavily supported by my grandfather. The first agency in Aberdeen was one called Nelson Milne Publicity, and my grandfather worked for them for a spell. So you talk about breakaway agencies, and oh my God, how many breakaway agencies have there been in Aberdeen in my time? But actually, my grandfather was the first one because he decided that he could do it better himself.
Yeah.
So this is James Mearns, right?
This is James.
Right.
James and Agnes.
Yeah.
So they started in 1936, and then along came the Second World War, and of course that was a problem. So
not a great time to start an agency.
Not really.
Not really a great time. So somehow it ticked over the war years, and after that it became a guidebook publishing company.
Okay.
And it was largely, it's a long story, but it was largely driven by the city council or councils across Scotland were trying to promote tourism in Scotland, which was they were ahead of their time at
there's some great places to visit in Scotland.
Amazing.
We just spoke about
Absolutely.
Aviemore, there's Ballater, Balmoral, all these wonderful places.
And we covered from Argyll in the south to Nairn and Ullapool and all these kind of areas. So really it was across Scotland. So it was a very successful piece of business through the the late 40s, maybe to the late 50s.
Yeah.
And then gradually package holidays started to come in and people were going to more exotic places and so on. So that kind of bit of business began to decline. And I guess one of the themes about the agency really over all these decades is how it's kind of reinvented itself on a number of occasions. There have been about 4 or 5 kind of key moments where it's had to evolve to the next level. So the guidebook business kind of dwindled and came to an end. Yeah. But the ad agencies was really beginning to ramp up through the late 50s, through the 60s. And I remember as a kid coming in here to get a lift home from school or whatever.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you joined the business?
I joined the business in 1978 and I was 19.
Oh, wow.
I'm picturing a scene from Mad Men back in the day with you
100%.
Fomex boards pitching to clients,
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Cool.
absolutely.
drinking whiskey at the desk.
Well, do you know it was all about client relationships and so on, and long lunches. And lunches. One of our clients was Gerard's restaurant in Chapel Street, which
Okay.
people of a certain age will remember. And I remember lunches, particularly my father, with certain clients, he would go at lunchtime and they would sit there all afternoon and have a whiskey and maybe another whiskey. And then it came to dinner time, so they just stayed for dinner.
Yeah,
You know what?
too
We
right.
need to speak
What
to
life.
Mike
I mean-
and bring back that culture.
And that was how business was done. Another of my colleagues, Guy Scott, we dealt with a company called Elena May, who were camera retailers.
Yeah.
Branches all over Scotland. Their head office was in Dundee. So Guy would go down for meetings on a kind of once-a-month basis. And he said, will I drive or will I take the train? Well, I think I'll drive because I've got stuff, but I know what's going to happen. he would phone me about 7 o'clock and he said, we went for lunch and we had 6 pints. I went back afterwards and did the work, but I was in no fit state to
How did you
drive
do a
home.
day's work after that? No.
So, but yeah, it was different times. But it wasn't always like that. But there were occasional
Great.
high moments like that.
So M&G has obviously reached its 90th anniversary this year. Did you ever imagine the business would still be going strong all these years later? What do you think has been the secret?
Yeah.
Well,
What has been the secret?
I did ask my father about 25 years ago to write down the history of the company, which he did, and there's 4 or 5 pages of that.
Is that the actual manuscript? You should
I am holding
I
the
know.
actual manuscript here. And where was the piece? Yes, he concluded. He concluded it all by saying, in all of this, M&G has invested in the latest technology and, most importantly, skilled and experienced staff.
Okay.
It has a high reputation for quality, and there is no reason to doubt that it will prosper for many years to come.
Oh, wow.
So that was 25 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
But do you know, I mean, when you're doing it, you're really thinking of the now and how am I going to get this done today or this week and so on. You're not really thinking ahead to the future. You know, we always just kept our heads down,
Yeah.
worked as hard as we could, looked after our clients as hard as we could, looked after our staff as well as we could as well, because if you look after your staff, they'll look after your clients,
There you
and
are.
everything will
And
kind
I
of follow on from
I think that still rings true to what we do today, because one of our values, we talk about being the go-to people. We make life easier for our clients, and
Yes.
that's kind of what we want to do.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can tell us a few more of your early memories for back in the day, Alan. Any pitches that stand out?
Oh,
or
gosh,
there's
lots
got
of
to be a few.
Well, various ones we did. I suppose to put this in some context, when I joined the business in 1978, at that time there was a company called Mitchell Self-Drive Car Rental, which
Okay.
was locally owned. And, you know, again, it's 30 odd years since Mitchell ceased to be. But in its time, it was a huge business and a huge client. And my father looked after that. And they had, I don't know, something like 15 branches up and down the country, including Manchester, Leeds, these kind of areas. So they represented something like half of the turnover of the company.
Okay.
So I guess this was another evolution point. We've talked about the guidebooks. We've talked about
Yeah.
the evolution into advertising. So when I started, my brief was to look. This is fine, but if anything happens to this client, it's not the best. What the task, if you are prepared to take it, is to build the business, build the client base as extensively as you can, build the business basically, so that it's not reliant on one single client. So really through the 80s and the 90s, we pitched and won for all sorts of clients like Spar Scotland, clients like Esselmont and Macintosh, which was a prestigious department store. Were clients for a long time. Norco, we did a lot of work for the university for their quincentenary in 1995.
And we still work with the uni as well?
Yeah, So, I mean, that's all good stuff. A lot of work with, what was then called Grampian Enterprise, Scottish Enterprise Grampian. So, you know, a wide range of different clients. But I suppose back to your question, Pete, one of the key clients was BT, and we won the Scotland Scotland or the north of Scotland account for them and did good work for them. One of our contacts there said, look, there's a big project that's coming out of London, but we love your work. We think you should pitch for it. And we were thinking, well, there's agencies across the land.
Up against London agencies.
So myself and a colleague went down, just the two of us, and wondered how it would go, but we had good work. And we pitched quite a lot of people in the room, and lo and behold, we won it.
Wow.
That is a story to be proud of, because you're up against some huge names within the industry, some big agencies. It's really competitive, and you pull together a pitch that obviously, small-ish agency from the north wins it.
Yeah. So that was very satisfying.
So looking back over your time here, what's the biggest change you've seen in the advertising and marketing industry?
So many changes, just too many to mention, Amy. But I mean, obviously the digital world has come. That has completely transformed everything. Any single biggest change? I guess there are good changes and bad changes. I mean, back in my day, in the early part of my career, the only way to communicate with a client was either to see him or her face to face or on the telephone. That was it. There was no other means of communication. So I would spend my life on the telephone. I would go out to a client meeting and I would come back and I would have something like 12 messages of people to call back and so on. So that was a big change. And actually, it was... dealing with people face to face was great, and also speaking to them on the phone. Yes, email obviously has a great part to play, but there's nothing like personal communication.
Exactly.
So that was on the client side of things. But again, back to your question, Amy, I guess it is the digital world
age,
has changed.
Yeah. Absolutely. This has been really interesting. Unfortunately, we don't have lots of time today, Alan. I want to wrap up with one final question. Now, remind me, how long were you part of the agency? Because you were MD as well, obviously, for a stretch.
Well, since 1978, and I'm still working as a consultant.
Yeah, and
now,
to this day, you're still a consultant.
So we're getting on for a couple of years short of half a century.
Wow.
So you have been here, certainly the longest member of staff that we have, and you were still a consultant looking after some key accounts. Yeah. When you walk into Mearns Gill today, what makes you most proud?
What makes me most proud is an easy question, really, that the business is still here, that it's still thriving, and that the culture of the business is still the same. It's good. It's down to 100% down to the people. The people are the business. Without the people, you have no business. We don't sell baked beans, or we don't have any stock in trade. Our stock in trade is the people. So I guess that is what makes me most proud.
Well, Alan, thank you so much for being a part of this bonus episode. It's been great. And you know what? Let's turn the mics off and just chat a little bit longer. Cool. Right. Thank you.
Thanks.
It's been brilliant hearing those stories from Alan. You really get a sense of just how much history sits behind the Mearns Gill name.
Talking of history, we've been digging through the archives and found some fantastic old commercials.
Yeah, advertising has changed massively over the years, but there's something really charming about these. So let's wind the clock back and take a retro commercial break.
As advancing technology increases opportunities, so the world of advertising responds to new demands. There's an advertising agency in Aberdeen that's been around for over 50 years and meets these exacting standards every day. They're called Mearns Gill. You've seen their work on television, newspapers and print. In fact, their own brochure is a perfect example of the type of quality print work they produce for many of the market leaders in this area. If you have an advertising, public relations or design and print requirement, let Mearns Gill work for you.
We try to give you the one you want. We're gonna get you on your way. These are the things we do, so we'll see you again.
If you want service in van and car hire locally, one company stands out. Mitchell's Self-Drive, on the back of Yellow Pages.
'Cause we're Mitchell's people, Mitchell's.
Oh, I absolutely love these.
Yeah, they're so good, aren't they? You can instantly tell which era they came from, but amazingly, you can also tell how much creatively still shines through.
It just goes to show that while the tools have changed over the last 90 years, great ideas have always been at the heart of what M&G does.
Of course, an agency doesn't reach 90 years without building some incredible client relationships.
Yeah, some of these relationships have lasted for decades.
I caught up with Melanie Henderson, Cruise and Marketing Manager from Lerwick Port Authority, to chat about working with Mearns Gill and why that partnership has stood the test of time. I started by asking her to give me an overview of her role and what they do at Lerwick Port Authority.
So I've been with the Port Authority now for almost 20 years. In April next year, that'll be my 20th year with Lerwick Harbour. The Port Authority is a trust port in Shetland, so we're Shetland's largest commercial port, and we're also Britain's most northerly commercial port. So we handle a really big range of shipping from all different industry sectors. We're very much a multi-user port, catering for the fishing sector, oil and gas, decommissioning. Tourism is now a big portion of what we do with the increasing numbers of cruise ships that are visiting us. And we've got the Lifeline ferries and cargo service that runs out of the community daily that connects us with Aberdeen here as well.
Okay, so there's a lot going on. And did you just say 20 years you've been with the port?
That's right, yeah.
So I'm guessing you really like your role.
Yeah, it's so varied. Honestly, no 2 days are the same in the harbour. There's a core of what we do that is very consistent. The harbour has been around for a long time, and its success is built on improving and continuously improving what we do for succeeding generations. So we're always kind of standing on the shoulders of the giants before us and doing what we do, but and the trade sectors that we work for are ever evolving. So yeah, it's a really interesting, varied job, and I've been very fortunate to be involved with so many different projects, especially in my role. When I started at the port, I worked mostly in the office and with the finance and admin side of things as well, and a lot of different systems for helping organise and run the business, and then moving across to more involvement with our external stakeholders and the relationships that we have with our customers. And that's how I've got to where I am today, is working more with project-based tasks in the job, but looking after some of our kind of core customers and stakeholders.
And speaking about relationships, I did say you've been a very long-standing client. Do you know how long you've been with Mearns Gill?
We've had a relationship with Mearns Gill now for over 4 decades. It started well before my time with the port, with my predecessors who had an involvement with the team here under Mearns Gill years ago. And again, they were supporting us back then in all the sectors that we're working in. So it wasn't specific to one particular thing, but what we've found over the years is that Mearns Gill have always taken a really active interest in all our sectors.
Okay.
But going above and beyond, I think that's the thing that stands out for me the most, is that the interest goes way deeper than just producing materials for us. It actually goes into understanding the harbour, really knowing our customers and what we are trying to do, and supporting how we engage with them in a really meaningful way as well. So it's been an incredible relationship that we've had.
So almost like an extension of your own team.
Yeah, it has felt like that very much at times, and almost like Mearns Gill's very embedded in what we do as well. So yeah. Can
you tell us about how the relationship with Mearns Gill first started? Do you know much about that?
Not so much about the details of how it started in the beginning. That, again, my predecessors, because it's been quite some time since then, but I know just having a look back through the archive materials that we've got, because we've got, our business has been going now since 1877, and we've got files that go way, way back, but looking back through what we've done in terms of marketing and the involvement of Mearns Gill, I can see a support for international trade shows. We've had various industry groups that have been very active at the time, so like Shetland Oil Industries groups and years ago, and that's the times that we had full-on support from the team here to get involved with marketing directly to those sectors.
Yeah. So over these 40 years, are there any standout members of staff? Is there anyone that does stand out as being a kind of key member of that relationship?
When I came to the port first, the chief executive at the time was Sandra Lawrenson working there, and they had a very good relationship with the double act, Derek Robb and Dick Much.
All right, okay.
And that team, they were great. They were so much fun to work with, and again, just really involved in what we're doing all the time, but watching everything that was going on and supporting hugely with everything that we needed to go on. So as time moved on, I had more and more involvement with them over the years. And I've always found them to, like Dick especially, was just always a step ahead of me.
Yeah.
And what I loved the most about working with him was always the challenge. You know, we'd put something together, he would come back with questions, with more in-depth knowledge needed to build the picture of what we were doing. And that was so appreciated. I think it's really important to get that challenge when you're working on things, because it draws out the real meaning behind what you're doing, and the purpose why you're doing it. So I found that support absolutely invaluable. Just always prompting, always a step ahead. And I have too many unanswered emails, so many that he sent that I couldn't get answered at the time. But he's been a tremendous support over the years, especially in this last few years as I've changed roles, going from a more admin role into the cruise and marketing role.
Yeah, so I guess a lot of people will see an agency as someone they can trust, and it makes your job easier. So I guess over the long time, 40 years that you've been with us, you've had not only account managers who've known your business really well, but like you say, it's been fun as well. Yeah,
it's really good fun. And you absolutely captured it earlier when you said kind of embedded in the organisation. I think that building over time, you know what to expect, you know how to work with each other better, and things flow so much better from that too. But it's been, a really invaluable relationship over the time.
That's really nice to hear. Thank you so much again for joining us on the podcast. I've got one final question. So what's next for Lerwick Port Authority? Is there anything exciting in the pipeline?
We're really excited about what's coming up next year. It's going to be our 150th anniversary.
Wow. You know what? We're 90 years. You're 150.
Yeah. Yeah,
lots of plans.
We've got lots of plans ahead. We want to make it a special commemorative year, and look forward to the future and how we're adapting and evolving and continuously improving what we do at the harbour.
Here's to the next 40 years of working together.
Yes, indeed.
Melanie, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It was wonderful hearing Melanie reflect on her experiences with Mearns Gill, and particularly her memories of Dick Much. Sadly, since we recorded that interview, Dick has passed away. We'd simply like to take a moment to remember Dick and recognise his enormous contribution that he made to the business over many years. Dick believed wholeheartedly in building lasting relationships with clients, and that's something that's become a real theme throughout this episode.
And on the topic of relationships, one that has grown over many years is with the Society of Petroleum Engineers.
M&G first began working with SPE back in 2012 on the Offshore Achievement Awards, and since then the partnership has grown to include conferences, exhibitions and events throughout the year.
And earlier, I caught up with Ian Phillips, the president-elect of SPE International, to reflect on that journey.
So the origins go back to probably before your director, Suzanne Robertson, joined. SPE had been involved in a slightly distant way with a thing called the Scottish Offshore Achievement Awards.
Yep.
And this was run by Scottish Enterprise, designed to celebrate, in their world, technical achievements by small companies that they were supporting in the northeast of Scotland. But they'd done it for 20 years and they decided that they couldn't make it profitable, so they were going to shut it down. Now, I'd been on the other side of the table. I'd been judging, and in particular, I'd been at events where people were in tears because of the recognition from their peers. So I thought, crazy that this disappears. So I took it to SPE and said, I think we should take it over. Mm-hmm. And in true SPE fashion, the answer was, that sounds like a great idea, so long as you do it. Yeah. And so I looked around for support, because SPE is an all-volunteer organisation, so it was impractical for a bunch of volunteers to take on quite such a large event. And up popped this lady called Suzanne Robertson, who'd just left the Chamber of Commerce, where she'd been running the Northern Star Award. And she said, that's something we could probably do. Yeah. And lo and behold, you could. And now here we are it's more than 10 years, I think it's 14 or 15 years later, the Offshore Achievement Awards remains a significant feature on the Aberdeen landscape. But more widely, Mearns Gill supports SPE with all of its what we call continuing education events.
So going back to the first project, obviously the Offshore Achievement Awards, what were you hoping that Mearns Gill could bring to the event, and did they deliver?
So we'll start with the deliver absolutely in spades. I think the truth of the matter is we didn't really know. We had a template of what Scottish Enterprise had done previously, and we knew that didn't work.
Yeah.
So we made several big changes, and to be honest, it's in the mists of time as to whether that was Mearns Gill or SPE committee members who dreamt it up, but we decided to up the game. So historically, for example, the Scottish Offshore Achievement Awards were held in things like university halls at Aberdeen University. Small-ish scale, probably 200 people. So we decided to go for the stars. So we went originally to the Aberdeen Exhibition and Conference Centre, which then got knocked down. We now go to Tekka, and we have typically 400 to 500 people there. And it's become an event where we experiment. So we've had some really big names. Speakers have come and spoken. If I remember rightly, the first one that we did was Kevin Bridges as the speaker and host. And that came because we'd given Mearns Gill not quite free rein, but pretty close. And this was like, oh, hey, that sounds pretty cool. Well, so long as you get the sponsorship to pay for it, and we're up for this. Exactly, and that's what happened. So the event became very much the yardstick by which other similar events were measured.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I've seen the event as it is now, and it's amazing to think back at the kind of smaller scale it was at the beginning, which is really interesting. You also mentioned the relationship has grown to include conferences, events, and so much more. Was that always the plan, or has the partnership simply just grown over time?
Originally, the answer is no, it wasn't the plan. But I have been involved with the SPE ever since I was at university many years ago. And I had chaired SPE Aberdeen section in the early 2000s. But I'd remained on the board after that, in particular, sort of being the chair who looked after the Offshore Achievement Awards. And then in 2016, there was a big collapse in the oil price. And SPE had some serious financial problems. We were heading down the tubes, to be honest. And so I got a call from other long experienced members of the board saying, would you mind coming back and helping us figure what to do? And one of the things I found was that our continuing education events, which had always been the mainstay of our income, were losing money, which was crazy. And the reason they were losing money is because the costs were fixed. All of the company that ran it at the time, two very nice and very capable ladies who had a business of their own, but the contractual deal was that they took a fixed fee, and in many cases that fixed fee made the whole thing uneconomic. So long conversation with them, they said they were not willing to change, so we said fine, in that case we're going out to bid. And what we invited and what Mearns Gill agreed to do was a much lower fixed fee and then an incentivised arrangement, and that was transformational. That has meant that literally Mearns Gill are on the same page as SPE on every event. We want it to succeed and we want it to make money, and so do you. So that's a pretty important commercial basis. Now, on the back of that, SPE Aberdeen has turned around completely. It's now a pretty sizable small business, and the only way it can work is when we have paid professionals to do things, because ultimately we're a bunch of volunteers on the board. So although we're technically directors of the organisation, and we do a lot of work voluntarily, ultimately it needs somebody who's there every day hassling for sponsorship, chasing down suppliers and so on. And Mearns Gill does that in a really effective way.
Yeah, amazing. And finally then, after more than 12 years working together, what do you think has made the partnership so successful? And what would you say to congratulate M&G on reaching its 90th year anniversary?
So what's made it successful has been mutual respect and flexibility. In the years that we've worked together, there have been downturns in the oil and gas industry which have meant that we couldn't afford to do things, or we found events that were no longer as successful as they were previously, and rather than being obsessive about, we only work with P&J Live, one of the things that Mearns Gill has done is taken the proactive initiative to find lower cost places to run events, so the same event can run just a different hotel in Aberdeen, and mysteriously it's lower cost base. So I think the flexibility and the proactivity has been particularly instrumental from our point of view. I think the other thing is people. It's a bit of a cliche to say, our business is successful because of the people. But I think in Mearns Gill's case, you've got great leadership from Suzanne Robertson, who's managed to find a way of being in control and but hiring really effective individuals who she trains up and then releases them almost like into the wild. And they actually do a very, very similar job to her very, very effectively. She's always there in the background. But for us, it's been a great way of sort of spreading any risk out. If you've got one person who you're utterly reliant upon, the proverbial fell under a bus problem becomes a bigger and bigger issue. But what M&G has grown is a great team of people running events. So from our point of view, it's a relationship that works extremely well. And I only hope that you have another 90 years of doing the same.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been very, very interesting.
Thank you, and bye-bye.
One thing that's really stood out from today's conversation is that Mearns Gill has never stood still.
The agency has continually evolved, and one person who's seen that firsthand is director Suzanne Robertson.
Yeah, we both caught up with Suzanne, who's a director in the business and heads up the events team, to talk about how the agency has changed, some of her favourite memories, and how she's helped grow M&G's events business over the years. We are now joined by Suze.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me here.
Suzanne, you're a director in the business. You head up the events team. You've been with Mearns Gill for quite a while.
I have.
2007?
I did. I joined in 2007. It doesn't feel like that long ago, I have to say. But long before that, I did get a taste for the business.
Yeah. Right.
Long before.
And tell us what it was like when you joined.
So Graham Mearns, so he was my godfather. So when I was 10 years old, I used to come into the studio where we're sitting here today, actually.
Oh, before it was a podcast studio.
Before it was a podcast studio, yes. I used to sit at one of the easels. They had easels. They had letrosets.
Wow.
And they had very strong smelling pens, which I really have this memory of. Very strong smelling pens that the designers used to hand draw their
Amazing.
adverts.
Oh, wow, of course.
Yeah, I used to, in quotation marks, help out. And I did do some work experience through the years here as well.
So you were destined to be a part of the business.
Yeah, I know. When Alan asked me to join, I was delighted. I was like, yeah, definitely. Because it feels like a family. And it quite literally was a family. So I can't remember how old I was probably at this time. I was maybe about 13, 14. Thinking I was cool for being in a Dona's advert.
Oh my goodness, yes, you would be.
So myself and I roped in a couple of friends at the time, and also I was the pair of feet in a shoe advert.
Ooh,
wow.
feet.
Who knew you had these skills?
Famous feet, yes.
And what was it like then, the early days of your role when you started here 19 years ago?
So I officially joined the business in business development, actually.
Okay.
And then that progressed into account management and then into events. So I've had a bit of a flavour of various roles while I've been here.
You'll obviously have seen the agency evolve firsthand. What's been the biggest change you've seen during your time here?
So I believe we've always moved with the times. I think that's true, and that's probably true, since the business started 90 years ago this year. We've adapted our services, and I believe that's why, we have stayed around for so long, and listening to our clients and what they need is key, being their partner. And I think that's, listening to them is really what works. Probably for me, the most interesting changes have happened quite recently.
Okay.
And it's on the digital side. And, it's the team that we have now, our digital team, really have their finger on the pulse. I mean, it blows my mind what they're doing. They've got case studies on our website. Look out on our socials for insights and tips, but they really are. They're a great team. Talking of teams, I do believe generally we do have the best people. We're all specialists and experts, in our own right. And you do get this full team of experts across, the various services that we provide. So rather than historically, I would say we were known as a traditional advertising agency. Now we're very much an integrated creative agency.
Yeah.
So, Suze, you've been a huge part of building our events offering over the years. Do you want to tell us how that came about and what's been one of your favourite events or projects that you've worked on?
Yes, we were delivering, or Mearns Gill were delivering events before I joined the business. And the first event that they organised was in 2002, where Total, as they were known then, asked us to organise a large marquee event for 650 people.
Wow.
And that's when it started. And then it sort of mushroomed from then. A lot of clients, saw this, not many events, big events like this were happening in the area. So that was great. And then some of the memorable events, I guess, after I joined, were some of the larger marquee events where we could theme them and we could be really creative. And, we didn't used to, I guess, replicate the traditional themes. We used to push boundaries, although I never want to hang upside down Christmas trees again.
That's amazing.
Can't imagine why.
And in terms of my favourite, I don't think I don't have one favourite. I mean, all events, for whatever reason, I enjoy working on them all for different reasons.
Yeah.
And the favourite part has to be just knowing that we've done a good job, and we've met their objectives. That's what it is, basically.
Great.
And then thinking back over the years, are there any moments, campaigns, or maybe memories that really stand out to you?
There are probably too many. We don't have much time today to go through them all. But yeah, I think one memory was being asked to organise an important client's wedding.
Oh,
and weddings are different from events. But I was also heavily pregnant at the time.
Right.
So I didn't go into labour then, but I'm really surprised that I didn't. And then another memory was a particularly difficult client who I will not name. The success of the event depended on us buying a wooden toy plane for this person's son. And if we didn't find it, it would have been a disaster. So I had to break the speed limit to get this toy.
There's been challenges.
Got the toy, and then they left. But I managed to catch up with them. Then they were delighted. So
you go above and beyond. Okay, I think one thing people often say about Mearns Gill is that it's all about the people and the relationships. Why do you think so many of our clients have stayed with us for so long?
It is about the people. We are a great team. We genuinely enjoy, we love what we do, and that comes across. And we have fun as well. Our clients love working with us. They also like the fact that, they're not just getting access to one person, they're getting access to, a team of specialists, as I've said before. So yeah, it's definitely about the relationships for sure.
And then finally, after all these years, what does Mearns Gill mean to you? And what are you most excited about as we look towards the future?
I think, as I said at the beginning, Mearns Gill's always felt like a family, and it continues to do so even as we grow. A lot of organisations, I think, as they grow, lose that feel, but I very much think that we still have that. And I am genuinely excited as to what comes next and how we will continue to adapt and provide new solutions. Especially right now, times are tough, but we're not standing still.
Absolutely. Suze, thank you so much. You've been a big part of the business, and it was great that you could be a part of our 90th anniversary podcast. Here's to the next 90 years.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Oh, it's amazing hearing how the agency has evolved.
Yes, but before we look ahead, we couldn't resist sharing a couple more gems from the archive.
Here's another trip down memory lane.
We'll be back right after this commercial break.
For all the fun of the fair, it must be Cadona's Beach Amusement Park, Aberdeen. It's Scotland's biggest.
You are about to see a remarkable demonstration. Here comes Fujifilm, with colour pictures so true to life, it's a real breakthrough. Fuji HR Films.
Elena May, with branches throughout Scotland, is offering a free kite with every 2 Fuji-colour films.
With over 20 years' experience, the Aberdeen Solicitors Property Centre has by far the most comprehensive range of properties for sale in the North East. Study our property register, take time to look around, and when you're ready, the Aberdeen Solicitors Property Centre will put you in the picture. With independent professional advice and an unrivaled choice of properties, let the Aberdeen Solicitors Property Centre help you find your ideal home.
I love these so much. I don't think adverts sound quite like that anymore.
Maybe not, although there's definitely something nostalgic about them.
And while advertising has changed dramatically, there's one thing that hasn't, and that's about telling stories that connect with people. So we've spent this episode looking back over 9 decades of M&G's history.
So it feels only right that we finish by looking ahead.
Absolutely. And joining us in the studio now is Mearns Gill's Managing Director and owner, Mike Wilson.
Mike, thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Hello, nice to be here again, I think.
It is. It definitely is. And this is a special bonus 90th episode of the podcast. What a celebration. 90 years.
And let's keep it going. That's the answer.
Yeah. Let's keep it going. Another 90 years.
And onwards.
Well, we'll come to that bit. Mike, so firstly, you are our MD and you became the owner of Mearns Gill in April 2016. So a whole decade ago. What attracted you to a business with such a rich history?
I think the answer to that is, well, prior to Mearns Gill, I was fourth generation family member of Willie Wilson's, Aberdeen founded distributor of plumbing, heating and electrical products, a business that was actually founded in 1901, so a little bit older than Mearns Gill.
Okay.
But I suppose I had that experience of, firsthand of balancing the history of an organisation with keeping the business up to date and relevant to its customer base. And I think what you see in that is what makes a business with longevity work is about having great people and great service. And that is the key to, I think, any multi-generational business. And I think I saw that combination of people, clients and great customer service in Mearns Gill. So it was quite an easy segue for me into something very similar to what I experienced before, with those same kind of core principles that make a business successful.
So very different sector, but principles that you feel make a business successful. Culture as well?
Absolutely. And I think it is interesting that until you move sectors, you probably don't think you can move sectors, but there's definitely an element of the core element of a business is the same regardless of what, obviously there are massive differences in what selling toilets to selling marketing and events. But yeah, definitely it's all about the people, the clients and that customer service focus.
Okay.
Yeah. So looking back over your time leading M&G, what are you most proud of?
That's such a hard question. I mean, it has been 10 years. It doesn't feel like that. But and I suppose we have achieved a lot in that time. I suppose a couple of things for me. There's a sort of combined activity for me in terms of it's been about growing the team, expanding our services and delivering great work for both existing and new clients. And that's the kind of technical side. But as you said, Pete, it's that also that team culture that we've got, which I think has been important. In terms of growing the team, I think it is about expanding the services. New people in the business has been what has been the key to growth in recent years. And it is about taking on exceptionally talented people across the business in each of our service areas. There's no doubt for me is that expertise that you've got at the core, whether it's on brand, digital, events, web, PR and comms, advertising, media solutions, we've got real experts in the team and they are the people that are delivering the results for our clients sort of time and time again in terms of helping clients achieve their marketing goals. So absolutely at its centre for me is, and that is what I'm most proud of is that team of exceptionally talented people that have made it work. But I think also it is that culture piece that you mentioned in terms of, I think that is also fundamental to delivering success. Think if you're good people but not the right culture, we'd struggle. And I think for us, one of the things I'm really proud of is that we defined our culture a couple of years ago, if you like, and it was kind of from the team that was delivered, rather than it just being some words that we put up on a wall. And, you know, it is about partnership in terms about both with our clients, but also internally within our teams. It is about support in terms of being there for each other. It is about integrity in terms about we care about doing what's right. It is about being pioneers and still pushing the boundaries of the business. And again, I think that's why we've been here so long and will continue to be. And there is a sustainability bit too that I think everyone cares about now. And, you know, what's the future going to be? And for me, the people and that culture is absolutely about what makes the business ticks and what will mean it will be continued successful.
Yeah. And there's certainly been themes threaded throughout this podcast. We've had great conversations with, you know, Alan Mearns. We've had Suzanne, and we spoke to Melanie from the Port Authority, and Ian from SPE. And certainly it's came up a lot. The people, the team at Mearns Gill, the culture, it keeps on coming up again and again. So that's been really good and really interesting to hear. Mearns Gill has continually evolved over the last 90 years, from traditional advertising to today's fully integrated creative agency. How important do you think it is to keep evolving while still staying true to what we stand for?
Yeah, I think it's fundamental, and that's what I said about, you know, I think any multi-generational business keeping evolving and keeping up to date is how you're going to succeed over many years. And I think, you know, particularly in marketing, I think marketing's a very fast-paced, changing business function. And as an agency, it is absolutely, I think, a large part of our value to clients is in providing the expertise that really works for them. And that means about staying up to date. So I don't know. I think for me, it's about, to be an effective agency, you need to know what to do and how to do it. And that's critical. And that's about having the right people with the knowledge of how to do it well. I think there's still a challenge, or not a challenge, but it's still a reality of the fact that it's a mixture of traditional and innovative tools today. Yeah. And I think there's an element of sometimes that's forgotten, that there's still a real need for traditional ways of marketing a business as well as the new tools. But it is, again, it's about the people having those skills that can assist a client with working out, actually, these are the right tools for you to use to at the end of the day, we're helping clients to communicate their messaging to their customers. And just to give you a plug, you know, on that sort of new innovative tools side of things, I think we've just done the kind of Let's Talk Tech podcast series, which the two of you have wonderfully delivered for us.
Series 3, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Exactly, a good plug. But it's a good example of where, if anyone wants to see how up to date we currently are as a business, it's a great series to listen to and really, really hear from the team that are delivering this great work. Just there's lots of change, but we have the people that are up to date with those changes. And I think that's a good listen if anyone wants to kind of say what is at the cutting edge of marketing at the moment, and to hear some of the tools that we've got, as well as the traditional ways of doing marketing events.
And digital is certainly another theme that's came up quite a lot on this podcast episode.
And we've obviously touched on the fact that marketing communications world is changing faster than ever, with AI, new technology, and like changing client expectations. What excites you most about where the industry is heading?
It's. I think for me, it's still about communicating an organisation's messages to their target audiences. So, yes, the kind of how you do it is changing, but I think it's still about telling stories that connect with people. And I think you've mentioned that already. So I think the tools will continue to change. I think that there's no doubt that what we know today won't be what we're using tomorrow. But the exciting part for me in terms of agency life is that continuing to adapt while just being razor focused on customer service and getting tangible results for our clients. It works because we actually do deliver what we're asked to deliver for clients in terms of them reaching their marketing goals. So that's the excitement, is that as long as we do keep up to date, the tools will change, but the fundamentals of communicating, telling stories, connecting with people, helping clients, get to their customers and get action, I think will always be exciting.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So moving away from that into relationships, because that's another theme that's come up a lot throughout this episode, and whether that's with clients, colleagues, or the wider business community. Mike, why do you think they've remained such an important part of our success?
Yeah, I think, again, it comes back to one of the reasons for taking on Mearns Gill was, it's historically had that very good, solid customer relationships. And I think, we are continuing to build on that. And I think actually all businesses should be relationship driven, or successful businesses are relationship driven. So, yeah, I think it is around that. I suppose for personally, there's a kind of, I see it as a virtuous cycle with client relationships in particular, that if you deliver great outcomes for a client, that then leads to additional work, and then additional work leads to an ongoing long-term business relationship. And I think that is actually in the DNA of Mearns & Gill.
Yeah.
Is actually getting close to the customer, understanding what they need, and then delivering for them.
Yeah.
That's fundamental. And I think it is that, it's an old adage, but the closer we get to our customer, the more effective we are in delivering for them. And we put a lot of effort into getting to know our customers, getting to know who their target audiences are and how we can help them reach those people.
Yeah. And that certainly ties into what Alan was saying earlier on in the episode as well.
And so finally, if someone was sitting down to record M&G's 100th anniversary podcast, only in 10 years' time.
Only in 10 years?
What do you hope they'll be saying about the agency?
Well, firstly, I hope it's me sitting here. And you, yeah, absolutely. Talking about the 100th anniversary. Yeah, I think Mearns & Gill is and continues to be such a great business that my hope would be the narrative is actually simply more of the same, if I'm honest. I think that in 2036, we should be still talking about great people, great clients, and a thriving business that still is ahead of the curve. That would be the plan.
Yeah.
Because it's been historically a great business. It continues to be and is today a great business. So why can't we continue with that in the future? And the elements are the same. We just, it will be different. There will be other things that we haven't even thought about that we'll be talking about, but it'll still be about people. It'll still be about relationships, and it'll still be about doing some great work.
Well, here's to reaching 100 years and
definitely.
beyond. Mike, thank you very much for joining us today and for being a part of this very special 90th anniversary episode.
Happy birthday.
And thank you to everyone who shared their memories with us throughout this special episode.
Yeah, we've heard about family beginnings, lifelong friendships, long-standing clients, memorable campaigns, and just how much the industry has changed over the last 90 years.
But if there's one thing that's come through in every conversation, it's that M&G has always been about people. The relationship is built with clients, colleagues, and the wider business community has always been at the heart of this agency.
Yeah, 90 years is an incredible achievement, and while we're celebrating the past today, it's clear that this story is still being written.
From all of us at M&G, thank you to every client, colleague, partner, and friend who's been part of the journey over the last 9 decades.
So, here's to the next chapter.
And who knows, maybe someone else will be sitting here recording the 100th anniversary episode in another 10 years' time.
Thank you for listening to this special 90th anniversary edition of M&G Agency Life.